Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg in the Digest this morning, and changing up for our normal, getting you caught up for the week. Instead, we're going to catch you up on council, and that can only mean one thing. Scott Girard, Fitchburg Star. He's here. He's with us on the phone. And Scott, are you traveling?
No, I'm not. In fact, I am at my apartment this morning, so this is as home can get.
We're never going to let it go, Scott. And I also appreciate you playing along.
Oh, absolutely.
Scott, thank you for joining us this morning. And let's cut right to it. It was a busy agenda for council as they continue to get underway with the new council and moving stuff along. So with no further ado, get us updated.
Yeah. So as far as, big decisions made or anything, it was a pretty quiet meeting, but there were some interesting discussions brought up, and the start of that was really the public speaking parts at the beginning. You had first a resident come and share some issues with flooding in his backyard, and that some of his neighbors, I guess, have also experienced. The storm last Wednesday, it came with so much rain before, and so there was just a lot to deal with. I know some other areas had some flooding, but apparently this has been a pretty regular thing for this resident, and so he came with some concerns, and the council had a bit of a discussion. They can only go so far when it's not on the agenda, but had a bit of a discussion just about how to deal with a problem like that. Ended up asking the man and his neighbors, who he said were having similar problems, to come to the public works meeting where that could be more directly discussed. So that meeting is this coming Monday. So I think there will be some discussions there about some residents having some flooding issues, with the rains last week. I know Fitchburg Road was closed for a couple days, and that's just kind of things that happen when we have this regular rain. So it was interesting to hear from him, though. Certainly something I think some other residents have experienced. And then that was followed by Jay Allen, who runs the Fitchburg Days committee, which puts on the Fitchburg Days Festival. A couple weeks ago, the council had a discussion about considering trying to inject the city into Fitchburg Days, make a new festival, etc. Got a little personal about Jay. He's a former mayor, former council member, so certainly well known in the city. And so he kind of came to respond to some of what was said at that meeting and express his displeasure. So it'll be interesting, I think, to see where the Fitchburg Days discussion goes going forward, and how the city does, if it does look to be involved, what its role could be in that festival. So that, those were two discussion points early on. And then a little later in the meeting, they discussed a big apartment building in the Fahey Fields development, and you had a couple alders kind of speaking out against the high density of the apartment building. I think it would be something like 400 apartments in that building, I believe. And as Dan Carpenter said, got him quoted, that's pretty dense. And, there's going to be single-family homes right in that area as well with this large apartment building, and they were discussing kind of some past planning decisions that led to higher density buildings, and that they believe the council and the city should reevaluate some of those decisions, because they don't think that high density apartments are always necessarily the way to go. So that was an interesting, they approved the apartments as they were because that's what the developer had been told to do and asked to do. But it certainly, I think, foreshadowed some discussions on planning and kind of long-term outlooks for what residences in Fitchburg could look like, at least for this council and perhaps for future councils, depending obviously on elections. So those were the most interesting discussions. There was also a little update, the ride-sharing program that the city is pursuing. Tony Hartman mentioned they got a couple proposals, one from a more local company called Ridgewood Transportation, the other from Lyft, which is a national ride-sharing company that competes with Uber. And so he said they were meeting to hear more details on those proposals this week, so that'll certainly be updated soon, I would think, on kind of what direction the city's going to go.
Perfect, Scott. Well, always a busy council, and even though maybe there wasn't a lot, too many things passed per se. There was a lot on the agenda. I mean, there's still discussions to be had, and like I said, council's just getting into it, so it's growing as it grows. And yeah, that's all I know. That's it. Well, Scott, I appreciate the time, and we'll check back in with you on the next council update.
Sounds great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yep, thank you. That Scott Girard, Fitchburg Star. And again, if you want to check out any of the past council meetings, head over to the website right now, fitchburgwi.gov. Click on FACTv, and you can check out the Gov channel from there. Also, too, you just head over to Gov channel itself. That's F3, Gov channel. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Coming up next, we're going to take you out to the Rolling Pin Bake Shop to make some tarts. That's next, right here on Talking Fitchburg.